Look at that. Hey guys, AJ here, back on another one for you. So guys, we all know that young boys and men are falling behind in school. All levels of school, elementary school, middle school, high school, college. Guys, most men aren't even going to college anymore, but all through public school, these woke LDHD TV and liberal white female teachers are treating boys like they're a pathology that has to be cured. Guys, I'm seriously starting to think that sending boys to public school is child abuse. Dead ass, right? Because if you honestly think that public school has your son's interest at heart,
you've been had, you've been took, you've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok.
clown will, right? Guys, so CNN has a report here, and this psychologist guy, he's going to basically explain why this is the case. So this video is called Social Scientist Explains Why Some Teachers Treat Boys Like Defective Female Students. And I've been saying this since this channel started. Guys, right now, society as a whole is defaulting to saying that how women emote, communicate, think, and respond is the default, and how men do those things is wrong. So guys, we'll get into this. Before we do, like, subscribe, drop a comment. Guys, I have a second channel called 501-304s. That is linked in the description. Please go and check that out. Guys, join my Discord. Check out the playlist at the end. I'm offering memberships now, so please hit the join button or the link in the description, because memberships really help the channel out. And let's get into this.
The why behind it. So this week we're rolling out a series with social scientist Richard Reeves, and he has studied these trends extensively as the founding president of the American Institute for Boys and Men. And he's also the author of Boys and Men, Why the Modern Male is Struggling, Why It Matters, and What to Do About It. So I want to begin with the foundational years of shaping boys in the classroom, starting with kindergarten. This summer, Washington, D.C. joined a group of major school districts across the country banning the practice of redshirting, where families delay kindergarten a year to give their child more time to develop emotionally or academically. New York City, Chicago, and Oklahoma public schools have all passed similar bans or restrictions on that practice, arguing it benefits wealthy families and that students should be with kids their own age. Other states support redshirting, with Tennessee finding that redshirted students perform better later on in third grade literacy tests than their peers. Reeves explains why he's concerned about this growing trend of banning redshirting and why parents should strongly consider holding back their boys in kindergarten. What are your big issues with education and men and boys?
The education system has become less boy-friendly over the last few decades. There's a few reasons for that. One is a huge decline in the share of male teachers. And I think that inevitably has an effect on the culture and ethos of the school. And we do know that when it comes to behavioral issues, etc., that having some men around helps. Because whether we like it or not, there are differences in the way that we behave. And so having male teachers around just really helps us not to immediately pathologize the way in which boys are acting. I think one of the problems is that we have this view about how a student should be. They should sit still for a certain period of time, focus on abstract work, have a certain level of emotional maturity. And probably that student we've got in mind is a girl. And if boys aren't like that, we treat them like malfunctioning girls. Sort of defective female students in a way. And so they get overdiagnosed with ADD, etc., or sometimes behavior just gets treated as requiring, suspension or whatever. And so it's a good reminder that these things are all on the average. The average 5-year-old girl is older than the average 5-year-old boy. And the average 15-year-old girl is definitely older than the average 15-year-old boy, as every parent will tell you, and as every teacher will tell you. Girls hit puberty earlier, their brains develop earlier, they become adult or more adult earlier than boys do. And that really translates into academic outcomes, because then they do their homework, they do turn up on time, they've got their acts together a little bit earlier than boys, and so that's why you see some of these huge education gaps that we couldn't see before.
So there it is, guys, right? He said it. He said it right there. They expect boys to sit still, and when they can't, they give them Ritalin! There you go. They try and cure the very nature of boys and young men. Absolute clown world. And of course, Big Pharma makes billions off of this, right?
If you think based on the data that the 5-year-old girl is more ahead than the 5-year-old boy, should 5-year-old boys be held back and redshirted for kindergarten?
I think they should, or at least they should have that option. I think that the fact that boys are known to be developmentally a little bit less mature than girls. So in terms of school readiness around the age of 5, the gender gap is bigger than almost any other gap you can find, class, race, etc. And so what you're seeing is just everyone knows this, is just that boys are just a little bit less likely to be ready. So why not give them more time? Give them an extra year of pre-K, give them a few months more of pre-K, so that then you would actually be leveling the field. I think at the very least that should be an option that's available to parents.
It's not always an option, like in DC where we are.
Right, in DC they just banned it.
Now guys, I have to stop this right here. Guys, even this dunderhead right here that actually seems like he cares about boys, guys, he's trying to say delay them. Basically, boys aren't ready for school at the same time as girls. So instead of changing school to actually suit boys or change the way that boys are taught in school, we're gonna, delay them so that they have to have an extra year of pre-K? What kind of bullshit is that, guys? Guys, you have to be careful of snakes like this guy on the right. He should be saying, well, guess what? We didn't have a problem with boys in schools in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, right? But now, all of a sudden, this issue, so why don't we address this in the schools? And he's trying to say, oh, no. Let's keep the schools the same, but let's just keep an option to where we can make it so that boys are delayed a year. How does that work? Absolutely insane.
Banned this following the lead of some other cities. And the reason they did that was because they saw more affluent parents doing it. So more affluent parents were actually holding their boys back, especially to give them more chance in the school system, right? To give them more chance to succeed academically. The irony here is actually it's the lower income boys who would benefit more from a bit of extra time. And so the challenge here is that what the DC school board and others see is like a class gap. So they see affluent parents doing it, but not lower income parents doing it.
What's your advice to parents through this journey of putting their boys through school and trying to get them ready for the world?
Well, the key thing is that there's much more variation like between individual kids of all genders and races than there is like you can't just have one rule. Mm-hmm. There is no one size fits all rule here. But I would say that if you are concerned that your son in particular, this could apply to your daughter too, is just not ready for school, is not ready for kindergarten, and certainly not ready for first grade. Talk to teachers about it. You know, take your own instincts seriously. Mm. There's a sort of industrial quality to the education system too often, which is like the conveyor belt starts at this age, and we have to put your kids on, and then they'll fall off the conveyor belt at the other end. And that's just the way the system is. And the kids are like going onto this conveyor belt like in a factory. It's like, well, maybe they're not ready for the conveyor belt. Like maybe we could be a little bit more human about this, and just ask the question: are they ready, and could they benefit from a bit more time? And talk to the teachers about that. So we should definitely take your instincts seriously about that. And the other thing I would say to parents, as much as to teachers, is that there is a danger, I think, even in the home, where we're holding our boys to a different standard. And we're saying to ourselves, and sometimes even to them, why aren't you more like your sister? I used to think about my boys, why aren't you more like your sister? And they didn't have a sister. I made one up. I had an imaginary.
See, guys? Right there. At least this guy on the right admitting he's
beta.
Right? This is misandry right here, guys. You know? And guys, this is the modern society. This is the West. Men are the enemy, men are terrible, blah, 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 blah.
Daughter that I could compare them to, always badly. And she would be able to remember to put both her shoes on before going to school. When I opened her book bag, it wasn't like a controlled explosion of stuff. When she brought chemistry homework home, it wasn't in a ball, right? It was in a file. It was in a folder, right? And so even I, without having a daughter, I think I had this kind of imaginary ideal. And I do think that we all need to show a bit more patience, a bit more grace to our boys if they're struggling in the education system.
Really interesting hearing his perspective on it, right?
So there it is, guys, right? Guys, young boys are cooked. Guys, if you have kids, especially if you have sons, homeschool, you send them to private school, do something. Because, guys, even the solution that this guy is saying, he almost has it a little bit, almost, but he just couldn't land it, you know? Guys, there is no deficiency with young boys. Young boys learn the way that they've learned, and they've learned just fine for centuries. It's only been in the last 40, 50 years where young boys have started falling behind. Absolutely insane. Look at this, guys. Someone says, I want my daughter to have the same opportunities as my son. However, I want my son to have the same opportunities as my daughter. That shouldn't be controversial. Facts. Look at this. This guy says, I, a man, taught elementary school for 2 years. That's all I could fathom. I saw how boys were constantly hushed, punished, and held back. I myself got in trouble because I noticed that boys could only sit still for about an hour and then either got distracted or bored. So I gave them a 10-minute outdoor break every hour. I bought my own football, soccer ball from home. So my class was at the end of the wing. So all we had to do was walk out of the classroom door. We had a small grass patch and they would throw the ball around and kick the ball around. Some of the female teachers, shocker, complained about me, and the female principal, also a shocker, called it to my attention and told me to stop. Look at that. What an absolute joke. This guy says, I was put on Ritalin because I had, quote, unquote, too much energy. Look at that, guys. Public school, child abuse. All right, guys, this is AJ. I appreciate you guys. Like, subscribe. Guys, I am out of here. Have a good one.